Hey guys, so welcome back to DW's Chop Shop. This is going to be episode 2 of top end rebuild. What we have here is the front and rear cylinders, and we're going to go and see if we can save these. So these have been honed in the past and they don't have much runtime on them, but when they sat, you can see this one was at top dead center. It doesn't look that bad. You can see the ring here where TDC was, and then you can still see the crosshatch is good. Right there, yep. And then this one was at bottom dead center, and it's not so good. I did oil these, but they sat for years, so it is what it is. So to do this, a couple things we're going to need is our tech manual, and it has a whole section on cylinders in there. You need some kind of a hone. I use a stone hone because I do a bunch of different kinds of cylinders. If these are the only ones you're ever going to do, a ball hone is better, but this one works. And you can use these or the ball hones, wet or dry. In this case, we're trying to save this cylinder, not grind the shit out of it, so we're going to do it wet. Drill to move your hone around, a micrometer, and a snap gauge set, which I actually found a little bit, but in short, these just squeeze down, then we tighten them in place, measure it with our micrometer, and write it down on here. We also need a tape measure, which I have right here. And yeah, so let's get started. First thing we got to do is read the tech manual. So cylinders, removal, inspection. Let's see, the following procedure requires the use of highly specialized and expensive measuring instrumentation. If such instruments aren't readily available, have the measurements performed by a qualified machine shop. So in 2023, you can get a decent digital micrometer for like $40, and snap gauge or telescoping board gauges like this one. There's different kinds. I like these cheap ones because they're cheap, but you can get them for $30, so it's not as qualified as it was in the 70s, or as expensive. See, so thoroughly clean the cylinders with solvent and dry with compressed air. Using a gasket scraper, remove all the gasket residue. So if you took your Garlock gaskets off, you're gonna have a shit ton of residue here. And if your base gasket was also that shitty Garlock material, it's going to be all stuck on here. So make sure you get that removed. Also, make sure you remove that shit from your engine base as well, and from the bottom of your heads. Okay. Inspect the top and bottom cylinder machine surfaces for nicks, scratches, or burrs. So what that's having you do is just look like we just went over. You just scrape your gasket material off, make sure there's no gouges, no rust spots. Everything's clean, looks good. Okay. Measure the cylinder bores with a cylinder gauge in figure 80 or an inside micrometer at the points shown. Measure on 2 axes in line with the piston and at a 90 degree to the piston pin. If the taper or out of round is greater than the specifications, table 2, table 4, we'll get to that, then the cylinders need to be rebored to the next oversize. So that's what we're gonna check. Okay, so what they are talking about in checking on different spots, and this is why I have the tape measure, we're gonna run the hone down this one and clean it up. So what these guys are talking about here is measuring on an axis, right? You can see it up there in that figure 81. So the way I like to do that is, and this cylinder is good, this other one I'll clean it up with the hone before we measure anything, because it's going to be out around as it sits right now. But we are, what do we got, 6.5 inches deep on our cylinder. So we will go about an inch and a half down and make a mark, and then we'll do another mark at about 3 inches, and then about 4.5 is going to be about the bottom of our piston travel. Okay, so now I will turn this 90 degrees and I'll mark it again. 1.5 inches, about 3 inches and about 4.5. All right, so the way you use these pliers, I keep wanting to say snap ring pliers, snap gauge set, or a telescopic bore inside diameter gauge, right, is if you find one that doesn't quite slide all the way in there, right, you close your gauge down and let it snap out, and then we will slide down to our first measurement, and I will tighten it down and pull it out, and then we will come in with our micrometer. And this is just a cheap one. I suggest digital, a lot easier to read. If you need to know how to read a regular micrometer, then you can find that on YouTube. I have one. We're not going to go over it. We'll be here forever. And we will measure this out. So we are 3.46 inches of bore on the dot. All right. So that's going to be our first reading. Okay. So now I'll bring this back in, release it, bring it back down here to our next reading point. Okay. So what are we at now? This one is 3.4655. So we'll round that to 3.465. Yeah, so far this angle, we're 5 thousandths out. That's pretty damn acceptable. And this one we are 3.464. So at this angle, or I had this set up this way. So this angle, this fucker's true. So let me find my other marks. Move these marks 90 degrees off. There we go. Beautiful. All right, so let's take these readings 3 more times. And then this one will be ready to crosshatch. So this one is 3.458. So our first measurement, we have 2 thousandths of an inch of deflection. That's not bad. That's pretty good. They would punch these out in 10,000 increments, right? So instead of going 3.4 or anything, it would be 3.50 is the next punch out. So release our gauge. .462. Okay, so this one is going to be 3 thousandths of an inch of out of round, which I don't think that's bad. I honestly am not sure what this chart's going to tell us on the next page to see what's good and what's not, so we'll find out. And this one is 3.460, so this one is 4 thousandths out at the bottom. So we are allowed 0.003 inches of out of round, right? Oh, so on this cylinder, so essentially the threes cancel themselves out. 460 minus 458, 002, 003, 004, right? So I'm going to average these. So that's 9. We'll divide it by 3. So that's 003 out of round. This motherfucker's on the edge. But I'm gonna send it. All right, so let's move over to this cylinder. And we will check this again once we hone them also. So this one we will clean up and crosshatch real quick. Get our book out of the way. There we go. So like I said, you can run your hone wet, you can run your hone dry. I want to clean this stuff up, so we will run wet. And if you have scoring up and down the inside of your cylinder, general rule of thumb with that, right? If you can catch your fingernail on the score, you're going to go ahead and need to just punch your cylinders out to the next size. There's not much you can do about it. At that point, it is what it is. Okay, so I got off our loose amount of rust with some penetrating oil. Now I want to put some oil in here. Some oil. Just like lubing up your mom. Let's see. Another thing, just like kind of if you're sharpening your knife. Oops. Put a little dab on your stone. And when you chuck this into your drill and you go to drill these cylinders out or hone them out, depending if you're talking to a guy in a garage or a machinist is going to call this just drilling. Put it in until they stay, right? Now you do not ever want to hold these in the same spot at all. You want to keep moving forward and backwards. Another thing you don't want to do is you don't want to just give this fucker the beans. You want to go nice and slow and forward. And I always put my hand at the end, I can feel it, and back and forward and back, just like this. Okay, we went one way, so now I'm going to go in reverse. Same thing, keep an eye out or put your hand at the back if you can't see the end of the cylinder, and just walk it back and forth. Let's clean this out, see how she looks. We're going to run it through here a couple more times. It doesn't look bad. Like I could still see some rust, right? But nothing is catching my finger, and the crosshatch looks good. I would run these. Those piston rings will clean that stuff right up. But let's hit them again. Let's run a rag through here, see how we're looking, and if we need to do it again. Oh yeah, we look a lot better here. You could still see like a little bit of discoloration, right? But the rust is gone, and it's so smooth. It feels good. I'm going to run crosshatch through here one more time. Ran it down 3. 1. 2, 3. Pull it out. Okay, what are we working with? Yeah, with the rag. See, every time I do this, it looks better, but you don't want to do it too much because then your board's going to be off. That feels baby butt smooth. So let's take our measurements. All right. Okay. So we'll go 1.5, 3, and about 4.5. And we will turn it 90 degrees. And we'll put in here 1.5, 3, and 4.5. And all I'm doing really is kind of just splitting. Like if you look at this, your piston's going to come up to maybe here, right? So you don't really care if you're out around in your combustion chamber. You care if you're out around down where your rings are sliding. So we go about 1.5 inches down, and then from there I split it into 3 chunks. Same thing, your piston rings will run all the way down this to, I guess you can't see it, but down about here. So let's measure these ones, see what we come up with. So same thing, we got our telescopic bore gauge. I call them snap gauges because like snap. Got our micrometer.
Decentralized, can't contain it. We're changing lives, yeah, upgrading. Call it suicide of the.
We're at 3.467.
Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah.
3.465.
Yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've already know.
3.464. So 3 thousandths out the bottom. Where are my other marks at? Right there. Turn our cylinder 90 degrees and we'll do it again.
The airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation.
3.461.
Just will adapt to walk, survive and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah.
Second set of readings. 3.458.
Yeah. I think that we've already know. Yeah, I think that we've already know.
3.468. See, now that last one being 10 thousandths bigger than the middle, that kind of makes me wonder whether my gauge was snapping right. So we're going to retake these two. There's a tight spot there in the middle. Okay, that's what I was thinking. So that middle one comes out to 3.462. So I got a little tight spot right there, and it's knocking that back in. Let me double check it that way one more time. I know this ain't exciting, but this is the right way to do it. And you want to make sure your shit's gonna work, so you're gonna want to do it right. Yeah, okay. See, this time I got 6.7. There was a 6.5 on there. Honestly, I bet I could. That was probably me. Yeah, that was me. So 4.635, and before that I got 4.634. We're gonna roll with that. 4.64. Now that's making me want to check this front one again. Make sure we're, see? Yep. Getting a little stuck up there. This is high quality Chinesium, is what I like to call that. Okay, so that one's still coming out the same. Perfect. I got that middle one fixed though. That one was way off. Made me feel weird. Okay. So with this one, we'll bring our tech manual back. Go to the back of the chapter, look at table 2. And here's where you got to make some decisions, right? Let me see if I can. So, engine specifications, cylinder, taper, and out of round. Our taper, we are at 002, which is like the up and down, right? And our out of round, let's see, we are at, so if I add all 3 of these up, we're about 0.04 out of round. So let's look at what we're going to do with the bike, right? Let's be realistic. This isn't going to be a daily, so I'm going to run this. So that's it. That's how you check your bore on your cylinders, which isn't too bad at all. So this one's good to go. This one I'm going to cross hatch. You guys don't need to watch me cross hatch, but if you can take a look, see if I can find an angle. There we go. I'm not sure if you could see that or not, but cross hatching is just little tiny X's. They shouldn't be big. They should be little tiny kind of figure 8s all the way through your bore, and it just helps your piston ring slide up and down. So a couple things to remember. Rule of thumb 1, if you can catch your finger on your scoring, bore them. That's all there is to it. If your cylinder walls are a little rusty, clean them up, see what it comes out to. I'm gonna run this one. And that's it, man. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope it helps somebody out. See y'all later.